how'd the last 2 weeks go? Good. Anybody want to share any more than just good? Any moments that you found it helpful? We're going to talk a little bit more, and I might ask you some questions as you go. But you felt like 2 weeks was a good amount of time to kind of hopefully get into some have some opportunities to practice. Great. All right. Well, we'll just jump right in. And as I told you last time, we're going to do a lot of reviewing. So as we go, again, I might ask you some specific things if anybody feels comfortable sharing. So, of course, we know that mindfulness is about attending to what is actually happening in this moment, right now, right? Without getting caught up in our thoughts or ideas or our judgments about what is in this moment, right? Simple, yet challenging. So, I'd like to talk about mindfulness as kind of this analogy, using this ocean picture. So if we imagine that this ocean for my life, right? It looks like the water's calm, and the sun is shining, and it looks like maybe a beautiful day. And sometimes life is like that, right? When all is well, and everybody's happy, and we want to savor those moments, right? Because we know that that's not the human experience, is to have this all the time, even though we would like that. And what happens is, in life and in this ocean, we have these waves come into our life, right? And sometimes those waves are people we work with, people we have in our families, neighbors, all kinds of people in different settings. Sometimes those waves are trauma, things that have happened to us that are traumatic, right? Trauma is individual, so it doesn't have to be something huge. It just could be something that was traumatic to you, something that happened to people you love or people you know. Even when trauma happens in our community, it creates waves in our world. Sometimes those waves can be situations, interactions with people, email exchanges, Facebook posts, conversations, right? And sometimes those waves are even our own thoughts. A thought will pop into our head and take us off, right? And it'll create all kinds of stuff. And what happens is we have this tendency to naturally get kind of sucked in emotionally to everything we experience. So let's just say, last time I was here, remember we watched the video where the person got cut off on their way to work, right? And so let's just say that's a situation. And we get all riled up about that, right? And we drive to work angry. And then we get to work and somebody's dropped the ball and left us stuff to do that isn't our responsibility, right? And we get emotionally sucked into that and all worked up. And then the next thing you know, a thought pops into our head of all the stuff we have to do tonight when we get home. And then that gets us, right? We're allowing all these things to dictate how we experience the world, right? And these don't have to be negative. They could be positive too, right? Because anything that's a change, a move, a new baby, right? It creates kind of some stress because it's different. So these don't always have to be negative experiences. Oftentimes these are experiences, these are the things we can't control, right? There's many things we can't control. The only thing we have control over is how we respond, right? And so this is what's happening at the top of the ocean. The beautiful thing is that we each have within us an anchor, and an anchor of mindfulness. And our anchor's at the bottom of the ocean. And at the bottom of the ocean, it's always quiet, it's always calm, it's always peaceful, right? No matter what's going on top. I guess if it was really shallow, then it wouldn't be too calm. But assuming that this is way down at the bottom, right? We could be having a hurricane up here, right? And our anchor, it's quiet. And so we have the ability to go to our anchor anytime, anywhere. And when we get there, we get to calm, we get to build resilience, we get to cultivate hope, we get to recharge, we get to self-soothe, right? It's just a little moment to just be. Not be doing, but just to be still, right? And the beautiful thing too is that we've already established that we don't have to do mindful practices for 45 minutes. We could come to our anchor for 30 seconds. We could retreat to our anchor for 2 minutes, for 1 minute, right? It doesn't mean we have to be here for an hour to reap the benefits. But we have to build an awareness that we have an anchor, and then we have to go there, right? And so when we're at our anchor of mindfulness, we get to do two things. First, we get to gain perspective, right? Because what happens is, oh my goodness, when we get sucked in on the top, we don't even know what's going on, right? Our emotions are running the show. We're going to be doing what we've always done, and we really have no awareness, right? If we can come to our anchor and create some space, we might say, okay, the person who cut me off on the way to work, do I really want that to ruin my morning? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. I don't know. That's for you to decide. Or the person who dropped the ball, you know, they left a bunch of work for you from last night. I don't know, right? Okay, the things we can't control. Do we really want to allow that to dictate how we're experiencing our day? We get to choose, right? And so we have to create some space to gain perspective. The second thing it allows us to do is it allows us to be intentional. Because honestly, there are some things up here that we do need to be part of, right? And so that's okay, but we need to be intentional about being a part of it instead of allowing it to dictate where we are. See, if we're on autopilot, we're going to live up here. And one thing's going to take us off, and then the next thing, and then the next thing, and the next thing, right? And we're going to just wake up one day and wonder, where am I? How did I get here, right? So we can be intentional about addressing things up here, though. My stepmother battled pulmonary fibrosis for 5 years, right? That was a huge struggle in our family. I couldn't just let that wave go by, right? Because that's family. So I would be a part of that, providing support, helping with meals, helping with appointments, right? But that's why we tune in to our attention, is where am I? When I noticed I was starting to get run down, you know, burned out, a little bit running low, retreat to the anchor, fill up, self-soothe, so I could keep going and be back and give my dad and my stepmom my best self. Because what happens is, I can only speak from women's perspective and women in the audience. I'm guessing men probably are the same way. Sometimes us women, we like to live up there because we got to be strong for everybody, right? We got to be there for everybody. We got to do. And what happens is, you know, yeah, we live there, but we pay a price, right? We pay a price. We're not really giving everyone our best self. We're giving them our tired, exhausted, or stressed out self, right? And at some point, if we live here too long, it's going to start impacting us. Our body's going to tell us because we're going to start getting disease, and things are going to start happening, right? Our body can't live here forever. So we want to be intentional. So we can go up, we can attend to things, we can do the things we need to do, but when we notice we need to retreat to our anchor, and then we can go back up. So my daughter got married a year ago in December. I don't know if any of you have married a child. That's a lot of ways. It was good, right? But it was very stressful. And she would get all worked up and in tears, you know, and oh boy, she was way up here. And they'd be like, okay, let's retreat to our anchor, right? Let's regroup. Let's remember what's really important. It's not the stuff. We should get all caught up in all the stuff, right? And so I found that we would have to retreat to the anchor, or I would have to help her retreat to anchor. But she affects me, so I needed to get there too, so that we could keep going, right? Keep on keeping So I want you to just file away this idea of an anchor, because I love this image. And an anchor, I recently learned in the last couple of years, is actually the image for hope. Isn't that beautiful? And I think that that's kind of what it offers us. Because when we can just be for just a little bit, we can cultivate that hope. And with hope, anything is possible. So, this is a quote that I love from Viktor Frankl. He wrote a book. He's an Austrian psychiatrist who is also a concentration camp survivor. And he wrote, between stimulus and response, there's a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. And in our response lies our growth and our freedom. Isn't that beautiful? And that's exactly what he's talking about. This space here. From what's happening to how am I reacting, right? If we can create that space, then we can choose how we want to live, how we want to react, how we want to be in this world, and then that's really how we create the life that we want to live. So anyway, powerful words, thinking of what he experienced, of the things he couldn't control in a concentration camp. So, we know to live mindfully we need to understand three things. Quick review from last time, which we're going to talk about this every time. One, it's that awareness and self-understanding, right? That's how we're creating lasting change. That is change from the inside out. We have to start building an awareness of our thoughts, where our thoughts are, how am I reacting? Am I reacting? Is this the way I want to react? We have to start noticing, we have to start understanding how we operate, becoming an expert in ourselves. Did anybody notice anything this week about themselves? Anything at all, the last 2 weeks? Oh, come on. Yeah.
My blood pressure's been lower.
Nice. Excellent. Anybody have any awarenesses? Have you noticed, you noticed that you were completely ruminating on something?
Yes.
You noticed that?
Yes.
Caught yourself?
Yeah.
Good. And so we never berate ourselves for catching those things. We just are grateful that we caught it. Anybody worrying about anything? You may catch themselves worrying? Thinking ahead? Maybe last night of hearing the weather, worrying about going to work? Or maybe right now you're thinking about something that's going on tonight? Any awarenesses on our brain facts?
I noticed that I tend, it's usually the smaller thing that actually will trigger me into like a panic or something, more so than the big things. When big things happen, I go into problem solving mode.
That's great information for you, right? So anything we can learn about ourselves is incredibly valuable as we're really trying to create this life of mindful living. Good. Excellent. Have you done anything with that information yet?
I
Just
guess
noticing.
I'm just aware.
That's okay. And that's where we start. I was just curious, as if yeah, well, we're going to learn all kinds of things, so you're going to have 9 skills to navigate that thought by the time we get done. Anyone else?
Does that have the time frame when you have to have a solution with a big thing versus a small thing having anything to do with panicking? It's a small thing, maybe it needs to be immediately solved. It's a big thing, you've got time to work on it longer.
Maybe. And I think for each of us that might be different, right? The things that make you panic might not make me panic, and you know what I mean? So, I don't know. The nice thing is we don't always have to figure out the why. If we have an awareness of that this is what's happening, maybe noticing even patterns about ourselves, and then we have kind of a tool to navigate it in a way that's going to be healthy. We don't always have to get to the root of, was that my mom who did that to me when no. Certainly I'm not a therapist, so I can't tell you about that. That's what people do in therapy, right? And certainly if that's something that, you want to really get to the root of that, that would be, very worthwhile. But for our purposes, it's really just noticing, perhaps being curious about it, which is one of our practices that we'll learn about, and then bringing in a tool to kind of navigate it. Okay, second is having those micro moments in our day. We need to find them and use that time to be mindful. Anybody find some micro moments? When did you find time to practice? Tell me.
I've had more than a few micro minutes.
Where were they?
Dropped my son off for practice.
Awesome. So you dropped him off and then you just waited a couple minutes before you drove home? Or while you were waiting for him to be done with practice?
While I was
Nice, yes. Did you catch yourself wanting to reach for your phone?
no.
Oh, good. Yeah,
Waiting in line
nice.
at a drugstore.
At a restaurant?
Drugstore.
Oh, drugstore.
Oh.
Nice. Who else? Doctor's office? Good. Good.
I had lots of time in an airport on a delay, so,
Yes.
yeah.
Good. Lots and lots of time there. Well, I left early because I hadn't been out today and I wasn't sure what the roads were gonna be like. So I left in plenty of time, and I was also kind of low on gas, so I swung down to Quick Trip. But I still had like an extra 15 minutes, so I parked and found a little guided meditation app on my phone. The only issue with that, I should have done one that was energy, because I was like, oh, I really need a nap. And I was like, wake up! So you kind of have to be careful there, right? But we do have those micro moments, so keep noticing them, keep building awareness of when you have them. They're always changing, not always, but oftentimes, because every day is sometimes a little bit different. So we want to continue to build our awareness of those. And the third, of course, is to harness these highways in our brain involved with our 3 pillars: attention, attitude, and aim, right? So this will be our second lesson on attention. So, guys, just a quick review, no rules, just guidelines when we're being mindful. First, it should be easy and simple, right? It's going to take time, knowing that this is an investment, right? It's not a destination, it's not a sprint, it's a lifelong journey. So there's no hurry, and we have to take time to grow wise, to build that insight, to learn about ourselves. And that we have to be real, honest and authentic about who we are, who we're being, our thoughts, how we're living. So, just a quick review on that. Okay, quick review of our brain facts. You remember, we need to understand how the brain is designed so we can begin to understand our own brain. So our brain's hardwired is always to increase our survival, to keep us alive, right? So everything that's hardwired is really to keep us alive, and we appreciate that. Brain fact number 1. Oops, I forgot to. Brain fact number 1. My brain and I work on autopilot more times than not. We will do what we've always done unless we intervene. We're just going to do that. Neural pathway is so used, it's been used so many times in our brain. It's our go-to, right? Triggers are going to dictate how I'll react. Trigger happens, we react. This happens, I think this. Right? It happens just so automatically. And autopilot conserves energy, which is why it's part of our brain, which is a good thing. We want to conserve energy. Anybody notice them being on autopilot? Anything that happened? Yeah? You want to share? You don't have to. I
have
noticed.
noticed.
You have noticed.
A lot of autopilot going on.
Good. That's great. Oh, so I noticed an autopilot this week. So I got a new vehicle in like November, and this took me a while. You know when things change in your car, and your car's kind of like your second home, right? And so in my old car, my garage door button was here, and my new car was on my rear view mirror. And so every time I'd pull in, I'd go, it's here. Well, my husband, of course, only drives my car every once in a while. And still, it's been 3 or 4 months, and he'll pull in and he'll reach here. And I'll just think, autopilot. Because he hasn't done it enough, right, to make a new neural pathway. Now I've done it enough to make a new neural pathway that I don't reach here. You know, I reach here. But what a beautiful example of autopilot, right? You pull in, push a button. So, yeah, that was, oops, how'd that happen? Sorry about that. Oh gosh, there we go. I just tapped it under must be like a little, yeah, it must be a restart. Note to self, right? Sorry about that. Yes, yes. Anybody else have an autopilot?
I get ready in the morning, I have a routine,
Uh-huh.
and that morning I use the iron, and I got on the road to work, and thought, I wonder if I unplugged the iron. Because it was a, just
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Just doing what you've always done. Sometimes if I do something in the morning out of order, I'll forget. Like, I always brush my teeth before I get in the shower. And if I get in the shower and forget and not brush my teeth and think I'm gonna do it later in my routine, sometimes I'll be like, oh my gosh, I almost forgot, because it was out of order, again, autopilot kind of thing. So many things we do on autopilot. So neither here nor there, just great information for us, right? Sometimes it's okay to be on autopilot, and then sometimes we don't want to be on autopilot. When we're maybe having a conversation, or we're driving someplace and we're, trying to find, a new location, or we're trying to problem solve. Lots of situations where we might not want to be on autopilot, right? Okay, so brain fact number 2, my brain's an energy guzzler. Fast and shallow problem solving saves energy, which is why my brain will do that first. Likes things to be fast and shallow, right? Be done with it. When I'm out of energy, I'm going to make my poorest decisions. Mindful practices can help fill up our brain with that needed energy, right? Anybody notice? Anybody kind of tune into their energy level the last couple weeks? Anybody notice that? We just want to continue to be kind of keeping these top of mind as we go, so that we can kind of start tuning into that. One way to think about this too is perhaps you could go backwards. You could build an awareness of a poor decision and then say, reflect a little bit on my energy level at that moment. Was my energy a little bit low? So that we can kind of maybe learn how that might be different next time. And brain fact number 3, my brain and I assign that emotional tag to everything I experience, right? Positive, negative, or neutral. The most vivid emotion is going to win my attention and shape my experience. So whatever tag I've given it, it's most likely the experience I'm going to have. And the warning is that my brain naturally gravitates to the negative. Did anyone notice this one? Maybe their kids, or something in the news. And there's a lot of that, right? It's easy to get sucked into that. Everything's awful, right? When there's good stuff going on, right? We just latch on to the negative. In our families, in our kids, in our coworkers, in our job responsibilities. Anybody notice? Okay. Keep keeping that top of mind, if you will. Okay, attention. Remember, attention is about what's happening, right? What's happening inside of me, what's happening outside of me that's impacting me, right? We have to be still to gather good information. We have to find that place of just being quiet and being still. When we are this way, when we're running a mile a minute with a runaround, our head cut off, right? When we're in crazy mode, we're not tuning in. We don't know what's happening here. Can't really detect what's happening here that's impact. We don't have our senses about us, right? To be intentional, to be living mindfully, which is why we've got to create this space, right? So that we can gather good information. So last time we talked a little bit about our spotlight theory, right? That spotlight that we have within us. We know that when we're on autopilot, our spotlight's going to naturally gravitate to the negative. If that's where our spotlight is, that's where our life is going to be, right? Because attention is our brain's gatekeeper. Okay, have that here. We also can move things into the foreground or background depending on what we're focusing on at the time. So for instance, do you see a face or a vase?
Yes.
You can't see both at the same time.
No, some of these, I mean, the things until you see.
Uh-huh. So if you're focusing on the white, you see the two faces because the black goes in the background, right? And if you're focusing on the black and it turns into a vase, the white goes in the background, right? So we're moving things in the foreground, the background, depending on what we're focusing on, where our attention is. Well, this is another way we can look at our attention. So not only do we have a spotlight, we can be aware of that. We also can move things in the foreground and the background. We talked about those harder emotions that we experience, that are inevitable, that are part of life, they're part of us, they're part of our story. If I have near me worry, fear, anxiety, hardship, mistakes, they're all right here around me. This is what I'm focusing on. Where's my life going to be? Right here, amidst all of it. It's going to take me under, right? So I can be intentional and move them to the background, right? I can just move them to the back, and I can bring up to the front around me the things that bring me joy and the love and the hope and the good things, right? That we all have, the success. We all have those things too. And if they're close to me, that's where my attention is. And that's where my life is going to be as well. That's going to bring me joy, right? I'm going to be filled with all of those things. So it's just, I love this idea of moving things to the foreground and the background. Okay? And so sometimes those can sneak up on us. We just gently, nicely push them to the back. We don't deny or suppress them, right? We just kind of give them a little nudge so that they don't have to be quite so close to us. Just another way of kind of thinking about our attention. So our first practice was that cultivating that stable attention, or just this, right? Our purpose was to still ourselves, self-soothe so that we can find that home base in the present moment, right? It was about breathing, focusing, returning, and resting. Alan talked about changing up. How did you guys change it up? Anybody change it up that they want to share? Breathing in something different, imagining something different. Nobody changed it up? Really? That's fine.
Did the colors.
You did colors. Okay, good. Yeah. What'd you do?
Mentally, caterpillar and butterfly.
I love it. It doesn't matter, right? It's whatever brings us joy.
Yeah. Mine
Would
was
you
just breathe.
You just
Just breathe.
breathe.
Yeah.
Yes.
what I did too. I
Yeah.
forgot the one did.
Alan, I think you said yours was like right now. Were you the one that said right now?
I've done that one, you know, it's been a bunch of stuff.
Yeah. Someone once told me theirs it was just be here.
Slow down, I've used that one.
Slow down. Sometimes I'll breathe in grace and breathe out praise. I was with someone and they were teaching their daughter, and she was like 7, and I think she breathed in a unicorn and breathed out something else. It was super cute. And it's like, awesome, right? Whatever brings you, gives you that sense of ease, it can change, certainly. I find myself that I kind of have a few that are most comfortable, and then I kind of will mix it up at different times. But I want to encourage you to switch it up. Did everybody get to feeling like they have this practice pretty solid? Did you get to your 10 minutes a day on some days? A few days? A few days? Awesome. What's that?
I got to where, I could focus my attention on that for longer periods of time.
And that's exactly what we're hoping. And I'm so glad that you noticed that, because for many people, it's doing something new for the first time. Our brain might be like, what? I'm not used to this, right? But it does get a little bit easier. Did you find it got a little bit easier to stay focused? And of course, that's what we want. So we not only can sustain that home base for a little bit longer, but then we can engage in conversations a little longer. We can stay focused on our work a little bit longer. We're building that muscle of concentration and focus. Good. Awesome. Okay. Yeah, and that self-soothing is really nice too. Just, even in the midst of chaos, just to be. So this is our anchor, right? This is we can just go to 10 seconds, 30 seconds, 2 minutes, and then keep going crazy for the rest of the day. But we can just take that moment to retreat. Okay, so today's practice, our second practice, is cultivating an open intention. And I don't know why, I guess the clicks are on there. So open intention is really all is welcome without preference. Certainly that's what open means, right? And this means that we're going to gently face our brain's tendencies, and we're going to cultivate an ability to be open and receptive without judgment versus reactive. Okay? Because when we're open, we're more receptive to information. We're more available to receive things, right, in that open place, if we don't have judgment versus just reacting to things. So, breathing is still our focus, but what we're going to be doing is paying attention to what's competing for our brain's attention. It's important to be open and honest. So this is really going to be valuable information for us. We kind of want to know what's spinning. We all have things that are spinning, right? And they're kind of in the background sometimes. Sometimes we know what we're spinning on, but sometimes we don't. And so this gives us really good information to notice, what are my thoughts? What's my brain paying attention to that maybe I'm not aware of? Sometimes those are things that I thought I'd been done with, and it'll pop up and I'll be like, I thought I was done thinking about that, but clearly my brain's still thinking about that. So no judgment, just to notice, right? Just to be aware. And it's important to be open and honest. So that's why we don't, a thought might come to us and we might want to make judgment of it, but we're just gonna let it be, okay? So it's gonna look like this. So we're gonna start in our meditation. And our steps are to notice, to label, and to let go. So first we're just gonna allow a thought to arise, and maybe that thought's, there's my car, I need new tires before my trip, right? Whatever, maybe sometimes it's your to-do list, right? Maybe it's, oh, there's Austin, I hope his hand is good, my son had broken his hand, whatever it is. Thinking about him. So what we're going to do is we're going to allow a thought to arise. All is welcome. Sometimes people said, I couldn't think of a thought. It's like, okay, I can't think of a thought. There we go. And then we're going to let the cloud float away. Okay? And then we're going to come back and let the next thought just come to us. Whatever comes to us. Right? We're going to allow it to go up to a cloud. We're going to give it a light and loose label. And then we're going to let it go. We're not going to stick with it. And we're not going to get drawn into it. See, if I would have what this might turn into, there's my car, I need new tires before my trip. When am I going to make that appointment? Oh my gosh, how am I going to get in there? And oh my, I've got so much to do, right? Because that's what happens. We get kind of sucked in and there we're off, right? So this is really, we're just noticing and we're letting it go. We're not going to, if we start getting drawn into it, we just immediately notice that and let it go, right? So thoughts can be anywhere, right? Sometimes more quiet, we notice pain. Oh, there's a pain in my back. Or there's an itch, and that's okay. It's your thought. Or, and I did I really say that's a judgment, which probably shouldn't be there. But so that's kind of how it's going to work, right? And so, again, all is welcome without preference. Now, the reason we give it a light loose label is we call this name it to tame it. And so what happens is the left side of our brain is our analytical side, and our right side's our emotional side. And so what happens is when our emotions are running the show, then that right side, okay, not literally, but figuratively, that right side gets very exaggerated. It's like everything's running on emotion, right? And if we can tap into the analytical side, our what we're thinking, our label, right? And we can kind of tamp that down to get it back in balance. Okay? Sometimes I've noticed when I'm all worked up about something, if I just kind of activate that left side of my brain, I kind of put things in perspective a little bit. Because we can get really emotion can override us at times. So that's kind of why we give it that light and loose label. We're just kind of activating that left side of the brain so that we can keep it in perspective. So this is our practice. Our practice is called Where's My Attention? And I'm going to lead you through this. And I saw an extra chair. I'm going to grab that if that's okay, since we have an extra one. I typically can't actually meditate while I'm guiding you, but I like to get comfortable as if I am. So, anybody have any questions before we start? Sometimes, so let me just tell you a few things that sometimes people say. Sometimes people say it feels weird. They can't think of anything, so that's a thought. Sometimes people have told me that they can't get their cloud to move. And I've actually experienced that sometimes too. So sometimes on my out, I started doing on my out breath, I'll just allow that breath to like blow it, right? My cloud away. Sometimes people mix it up and they put it in a balloon because they can imagine that kind of floating away easier than a cloud. Sometimes people have, I've guided people through putting it on like a leaf in a stream, right? And just letting it kind of float away. So I'm going to guide you with a cloud, but certainly if you want to change that out while we're doing it, you can. Whatever, you can kind of make move away. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Well, we'll just get started. Yeah.
I have a question about the labeling.
Yeah.
What are like examples of labeling?
Sure. So let's just see. Oh, there's my to-do list. There we go. Right? Nothing more, nothing less. I'm trying to think of a thought that might come. What's for dinner? What am I going to fix for dinner? Right? I need gas. And then let it go. Whatever thought. So, and we're not going to make a we don't want to get drawn into it. We're just kind of like what it is on the surface. It doesn't even have to make sense. It doesn't have to be like a complete sentence or anything. It's just kind of, you're just giving a little, that's why it's light and loose, just a label, and then we're letting it go. Does that make sense? I'm trying to think of other thoughts that might pop up.
If you look at clouds and float away and need gas, what if you forget to get gas?
And actually, that's so funny. Someone actually asked me that. She's like, Robin, I she was like buying a birthday card for her dad, but then she didn't want to let it go because she didn't want to forget to buy the birthday card for her dad. Well, the good news is that important, it's not obviously completely going out of our mind for good. Those important things will come back to us. But I did say, if you're doing this and there is something you're fearful that you're going to forget, just stop, make yourself a little note if you want, and then go back to it, But that isn't legitimate. I mean, she was like, this was the other thing that someone told me. They're like, they kept wanting to follow their cloud out, like to go with it. They couldn't quite let it go. So it's like, okay, because we all have, unique experiences. So we'll just start. So both feet on the floor, sitting up nice and straight, getting good airflow with our hands in our lap. And we're going to start by just, if you feel comfortable, closing your eyes or lowering your gaze. I'm just going to begin by noticing our breath. Noticing that life-giving air. As we breathe in, breathe out. The brain might notice the ticking of the clock, or the movement of the floor. Just notice those things and gently come back to your breath. Feeling the sensation of that air. Helping to calm our brain. Helping us to get into the present moment. You may notice the sensation of the chair against your back. The bouncing of the floor, the bouncing of the chair. rise and then gently come back to your breath. Allowing our breath to get a little deeper and a little slower with each breath cycle. And we're just going to let whatever thought comes to us arise. All is welcome without preference. You can imagine that thought rising above us. Imagining it in a cloud. We're going to give it a light loose label. And we're going to let that cloud float off. Watching it get smaller and smaller as it moves away. Bring our attention back to the next thought that comes to us. Again, all is welcome. Imagine that thought arising above us. Noticing. Giving it a light loose label. And then letting it float off. Watching it as it gets smaller and smaller. Bring our attention back to the next thought that comes to us. Allow that thought to rise, notice, label, and let go. Perhaps giving it a little breeze with your out breath. And bring our attention back to our breath. Back to that life-giving air. Feeling grateful for this moment. Savoring the sense of peace we've cultivated. Really slowly let your eyes move. Okay, this is a very odd sensation of this. Is there something, is this normal?
Someone's running on the treadmill.
I kept going, I can't figure out what that is. I can't figure out what that is. I was like, elevator, treadmill, thank you. So how was that? Is it okay? What's that?
I was surprised by how many things I was able to come up with. Like, I was able to push them off really fast, but probably like 50 things.
Oh boy, okay. Sometimes people go, oh, should I pick that one or that one? Or I got so many, I don't know which one. So we want to just give each one kind of its due little time. There's no rush, there's no hurry, right? If we have, did you let 50 go?
Yeah, well, I could envision myself showing them.
Okay. Hey, sure, just give it a kick out, right? Whatever works for you, right? So let me tell you, this practice, a couple of things. For me personally, this practice is one that I do, like when I wake up in the middle of the night and I can't go back to sleep because that stuff's spinning, right? For me personally, I can't do it laying in bed. I don't know why. I've tried it. I have to get out of bed and like sit in my chair and kind of get to that place and just, for whatever reason. Now my daughter loves this and she does it in bed and just helps her go back to sleep because it's just kind of like letting that stuff you're spinning on go. There was a time that was really powerful for me. I was experiencing, I had a colleague that I was working with right after I graduated graduate school, and we were working in a project in mindfulness together. And I met Leslie in graduate school, and she was an older student, a little older than me. And while I really valued her wisdom and friendship, we got to a place where it was difficult. we've all been there, right? And she had a lot of baggage, and, you know, we kind of think we can navigate that, but at some point, sometimes we realize we can't. So I was noticing this heaviness with my relationship with her, my working relationship. And so I was like, man, I gotta let this go. Like, I just knew that that's why we tune in, right? Because our bodies kind of, when we can notice those things. And I specifically, it was very vivid. I sat down and I just allowed everything about Leslie to just arise. So there's that dysfunction and let it go. And there's that thing I was struggling with about her, right? And of course it was all negative because we gravitate to the negative. But I just allowed all those to arise, and I just let them go. Literally, I was sitting in my bathroom and I watched them go out my window and up my street until I couldn't see them anymore. And when I got through all of that stuff, I was like, it was like a whole weight had been lifted off of me. Now, mind you, before that, I told myself to let it go. Like, let it go, let it go. Just, you know, like, I tried to let it go, but for some reason my brain wasn't getting the message, which is kind of like, I have to imagine that our brain is like actually experiencing this. You know, we're visualizing it and we're actually kind of experiencing it. I can't tell you that for sure. I'm sure there's research I could dig up on that. But, you know, so we can tell ourselves something, but if we can actually put ourselves in the experience of actually doing it, even if it's in our mind, we can be able to reap some benefits. So that was extremely beneficial for me, because what happens is, remember, when we can let those thoughts go, we have this openness, right, where we can have some clarity. And for me, it was clarity that I needed to end the relationship. It was toxic. But you know, when you're not really, you want something and you like people, you just, you know, you get so entrenched in it that you can't quite figure out what to do. This gives us clarity. It gives us that space. So organizations do this to be creative, right? So we can let all those thoughts go. We have this space for creativity. Some of my best ideas have come out when I've just kind of done this and let some things go, or if I have a problem and I really want to think kind of outside the box. I want to be. We have to do that all the time. Whoever solves, problem solve. So this is a great practice for that. Okay, so lots of reasons why this might be helpful. Okay, any questions? Yeah.
Do you try to problem solve while you're meditating or after you're finished?
I do it after. Yeah. Now, I think some people might. I just personally, it's kind of like, I feel like that place of calm and then just that place of being allows me to kind of be creative. But it's not like, okay, now I've got to fix this problem, you know. So I don't go back into that. I just kind of allow. Sometimes people might do that and then allow their mind to wander a little bit. Sometimes that creates creativity in a way. I think maybe for each of us it's different, but for me personally, I kind of just let that time be and allow things to just evolve without being really, you know, intentional. Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah.
Is this like a different exercise than the stable one? Or are they like in conjunction where when you go back to your breath, you're doing the like just this thing, or is it like?
No, yeah. Well, so certainly we can do just this if we want to just get into the present moment, if that's going to help us. And then we can let those thoughts arise and let them go. All of these are like, they're all going to be interwoven. There's no right or wrong. You do what brings you ease. And if that means doing your justice first, you know, and then moving into your open, then that's completely fine. Whatever works for you. Now, I will have, somebody did tell me, she's like, Robin, just this, we're staying here, and then you're asking me to let something go. And it was hard for her to do that, to move from both of those. So I would say experiment, you know, but yes, we're gaining skills that are a little bit different with each one, but they all are going to create a lifestyle of being mindful, right? I don't use this one every day. Some people might. I use it probably, I don't know, 3 or 4 times a month maybe. I mean, if I have a lot going it just varies, you know what I mean? Whereas my just this, I might do every day. For me, it's a go-to. So you're gonna find that you're gonna pull different things in at different times, but they're all a little bit different, but they all kind of start creating this tapestry. Thanks for asking. Any other questions? Okay, well, we are about to wrap things up. I heard the ticking of a clock. Oh, there it is. Like, where is that? I was thinking it was over there. It's interesting the things you hear when you're quiet, right? Okay, so this week, we bounce up and down. Continue to think about how your brain works. See if you can notice something you hadn't noticed before. Anything at all, right? Anything at all is great information for us. Place your mind chatter card handy to remind you to try and get to 10 minutes a day, okay? So that could be 30 seconds here, 2 minutes here, 1 minute here, but our goal, of course, is to try and get to 10 minutes a day. It's gonna really help us create that neural pathway. It's also gonna get us kind of to a place where we're comfortable. Sometimes when we do something for the first time, it's a little uncomfortable, but if we keep doing it, it's gonna get easier, just like you're just this. You've been able to kind of stay in that concentration place for longer. This is gonna get a little bit easier the more you do it, okay? And start slow, give yourself grace, make it your own. Remember, if you try and do it and it's not working, just let it go and try again later. We don't wanna force things. And if you have a couple days where life hijacks you, give yourself grace, right? When we remember, we can start fresh. And our quote to end with today is from Henry David Thoreau. As a single footstep will not make a path on the earth, so a single thought will not make a pathway in the mind. To make a deep physical path, we walk again and again. And to make a mental path, we must think over and over the kind of thoughts we wish to dominate our lives. So that's what we're doing. We're making some new pathways in our brain, how we want to live, how we want to be. So, any questions? Last comments, thoughts? Oh, good. All right. Well, have a great week. You feel free to reach out to me if you have questions, anything at all, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.